Hey, everybody. I have Ted McLyman here today for a study of chapter 3 in his book, Discovering Your Money Temperament, Common Sense Guide to Financial Security. Ted, hello. How you doing today?
Doug, how are you?
I'm doing great.
I'll tell you, I'm glad to hear you're doing well. It's an interesting spring here in Augusta. It is 70 degrees outside, and I think it's 60 degrees inside.
Right. I actually turned up the heat inside a little bit, so you're
Yeah,
right. Hey,
yeah.
by the way, I am Doug Fine, and I do training development, leadership development under defined performance solutions, and we have some. We're moving into a different direction, kind of talking to established authors about what they're kind of doing to help the world. And Ted, we're going to talk about chapter 3 in your book today. Again, it's called Discovering Your Money Temperament, a Common Sense Guide to Financial Security. And Ted, the more I get into this book, the more I understand your sense of humor, the more I understand common sense. It's a very creative way, what you're doing, creative way to get to help people, your readers, to understand the content. So I'm really appreciating it a lot, and I'm thrilled
Well,
to be able.
I thank you for an input. Just as an editorial note, when I wrote this, I did not want to write another money book.
Mhm.
That is dry, it's technique, it's numbers and graphs, and talks about the history of the Dow Jones and all that. Who cares? There are millions of books about that. I wanted to make this a book for people who really would never buy a book on money or finance or
Mhm.
economics, but should, or people that are into the field, give them something a little different to work with, but also something they'd be comfortable giving to their clients, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, give it to your clients, give it to your kids, give it to your grandkids. I mean, that's my plan is to, once we get through this book, uh, buy a copy for my 25-year-old and my 22-year-old and our 19-year-old, because I think
Well,
they need it.
that's a good point. I think this book is ideal for college students, probably high school seniors, maybe juniors and
Mhm.
above, but definitely that 20-something crowd that is probably a little confused right now with what we're going through, has
Mhm.
never seen anything like this and seen the stress and whatever. And if they're seniors, they're going into a very, very different economy than they started college with. So this is an important book. And again, the key is it's based on what I did is I created a narrative, a story, and I
Mhm.
just followed this made up person who is going to be you as the reader as I
Mhm.
follow you through different spending situations based on going back and forth to the mall, and I comment on it. Pretty simple.
Yeah, it's awesome. So let's get down to chapter 3 here today, and chapter 3 is called "It's All About You and Your Money Beliefs." And Ted, in chapter 3, you mention a colleague of yours. Her name is Dr. Faye Hargrove. And I'd really like to ask you to talk a little bit about what you learned from Dr. Hargrove, and how did her thinking influence you for this book? How can you relate it to better choices about
Yeah.
money?
Well, Dr. Faye is a industrial psychologist. She's an amazing woman, author in her own right. She's got her own practice, and she works on at the organizational level, also with individuals with identifying and changing behavior. And if I had to take away, well, and she was also a client, and where I think we hit it off, and we actually started doing some work together, was I was the first person she'd talked to in the money business that applied what she did as a professional to money. And it was just an enlightening moment for her. Just, stars and whistles went off. And because again, I've said it in earlier talks that money is about behavior. It's about how we think and feel about money, but we don't talk about that when we talk about money. We talk about the stuff nobody cares about. So what I learned from Faye more than anything is your money beliefs are a compilation of who you are, and who you are is, again, your biology, where you grew up, your experiences, mostly your emotional experiences, and how you felt in the past. You bring that forward, and you filter everything through that prism of you, your emotional you. And what I bring out in the book is this is mostly instantaneous and non-conscious. So Faye was the one that really codified this idea in my mind. And you'll notice that the book, at least part one of the book, kind of follows that pattern.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She is a psychologist too, so that's another thing that she brings, and you bring a lot of psychology and a lot of neuroscience, brain chemistry kind of stuff. You bring it all together in this book as it relates to how we deal with money. So when it sounds to me like she likes to help people make better choices. I mean, and she thinks choices are what makes up humans. We have choices. So how does what you learn from her relate to choices that people make about money?
Well, I started working with this, and I got into the whole idea of choice decision and choice architecture when I was getting my second graduate degree in performance technology.
Mm-hmm.
And it came out of my experience in the military, the Marine Corps, because we dealt continually with how to make better decisions, particularly decisions under stress.
Mm-hmm.
And we started doing some research and some work. And it was kind of interesting that we actually brought in commodity traders from the Chicago board and brought them into Quantico to work with some of our mid-level officers, majors, about the process of making decisions under stress. I also know that in the military, as you know, that bad decisions can be incredibly consequential.
Absolutely.
So we want to refine that quite a bit. And then I did one of the studies after Desert Storm, and it really interested me to watch how information was processed as it went through the system. And we were always looking for bottlenecks and things that weren't working. And it was interesting to me that in the military, you use message traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Message traffic is just sending notes back. It's chat for the military. And there's a hierarchy. That something that's really important gets one status, and something that's not so important is kind of routine. Well, watching the flow of information, it would go to a central point, and it's being processed usually by a fairly junior enlisted person who's making the determination who gets what. And what they were using was a classification. And it was fascinating to me that the system, all the players figured out very quickly if they wanted their message or text answered, they had to inflate the classification.
Of course.
So
yes.
When we first started, everything was pretty neat, routine, not too important, immediate, oh my gosh, send it, things are going to pieces. And by a couple weeks into this, a chow request was now being labeled immediate, no kidding, we're being overrun.
Wow.
And it was fascinating to me to watch this decision. And if most people didn't realize that we had a very junior person reading these messages and making a determination. So that's a practical example of how important choice is and choice architecture. And what it showed me is we're just not really good at it. It's emotional. Even in the military, it is emotional. And somebody is making that choice based on their information, their filter, as Dr. Faye calls it. And we do this all the time with everything we do.
Wow. Well, again, I hope this little discussion we're having today, I hope it's going to, let's say, interest people in getting this book. How can we get this book? We can get it off your website. We can get it at Amazon.com. It's a Kindle edition.
You can go to my website, tedmclyman.com. Oh, sorry, we got a little delay here. I apologize for that. tedmclyman.com, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and most every places. Let me add one other thing that Faye also said.
Sure.
That you can change your belief set. It takes work, but you can reset and move on. The trick is not be locked into the past. You can't fix the past. You can fix the future, but it takes some work.
Yes, it does. Ted, thank you again. And we'll see you. We have chapter 4 coming up at the next visit that we have. And chapters 4 is called
I'm Ready.
The Rules Have Changed. And we'll see you soon, Ted. Thank you.
That's a good one.
Take care.
Okay, thanks, Doug.
Bye-bye.